Welcome back to Wickedly Judged, the podcast where we expose wrongful convictions, advocate for justice reform, and fight for a system that truly serves justice. I'm your host, Rebecca, and I'm so glad you are joining us today for this special behind-the-scenes episode. If you've been following us for a while, you know that Wickedly Judged is more than just a podcast. It's a movement. We're here to shine a light on the flaws in the justice system, inspire change, and empower others to join this fight for justice. Unlike other true crime podcasts, we don't stop at storytelling. We actively investigate cases, gather evidence, and work to get them back into court. Today, we will be addressing the third pillar of Wickedly Judged, investigate. But before we dive into today's episode, I want to take a moment to share why I started Wickedly Judged. This podcast was born out of my own personal fight for justice. You see, my fiancé has been wrongfully convicted of a crime he didn't commit. He is still sitting in prison today after almost 20 years. And it breaks my heart every single day to know that he's behind bars because of a system that failed him. If someone had been there to investigate his case thoroughly, if someone had looked deeper into the evidence, uncovered the truth, and fought for him, he might not still be sitting in prison right now. That injustice is what drives me. It's why I'm so passionate about what we do here at Wickedly Judged, and why I'm so strict with our investigation processes. This isn't just about telling stories or making a podcast. This is about making sure that no one else has to go through what my fiancé and I have endured. It's about holding the system accountable and fighting for those who've been silenced. So today, I'm pulling back the curtain to show you exactly how we investigate wrongful conviction cases, from the initial case submission to the final call for legal action. You'll get an in-depth look at the work we do to uncover the truth and fight for justice. Before we dive in, I want to thank our sponsor, Veteran Alliance, for their unwavering support. And of course, a huge shout out to JP Verse of Versifier Records for the incredible intro and outro music that gives our podcast its signature energy. If this is your first time tuning in, I encourage you to visit wickedlyjudged.com to learn more about our mission, read our blog, and browse our exclusive merchandise. Every purchase supports our work. Now, grab a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and let's dive into the investigative process that makes Wickedly Judged unique and why thorough research is the cornerstone of our work. Every case that we investigate starts with a submission. These come from listeners, family members of the wrongfully convicted, and sometimes even from the individuals themselves. But before we can feature a case on our podcast, we have to do our due diligence. Why is this so important? Because the stakes are incredibly high. We're not just telling stories. We're advocating for real people whose lives have been devastated by wrongful convictions. If we feature a case without thorough investigation, we risk spreading misinformation, damaging our credibility, and, worst of all, giving false hope to families who are already suffering. And honestly, my fiancé's case is the reason I'm so strict about this process. I know what it feels like to have hope dangled in front of you, only to have it ripped away because no one took the time to dig deeper. I refuse to let that happen to the families who trust us with their stories. So here's how we ensure that every case we feature meets our standards. We have to have clear evidence of a wrongful conviction. We prioritize cases where there is strong evidence of prosecutorial misconduct, withheld evidence, or systemic corruption. These red flags often indicate that the individual did not receive a fair trial. We look at if there's potential for legal action. Our ultimate goal is to help get these cases back into court. We focus on cases with a realistic chance of being reopened or appealed based on new evidence or procedural errors. We also base our decision on whether we have the resources feasibly needed to get these cases back into court. With a small but dedicated team, we can only handle 3 active investigations at a time. This means we have to carefully assess the time, effort, and resources each case will require. We need to assess the impact potential. We evaluate whether shining a spotlight on the case could lead to broader systemic changes. Cases that expose widespread issues, such as prosecutorial misconduct or forensic errors, can have a ripple effect, inspiring reform beyond that individual case. Once a case passes this initial evaluation, we move into the research phase. This is where the real work begins. I want to share an example of a case submission we received early on. The family was convinced their loved one was innocent, and their story was heartbreaking. But as we dug deeper, we realized there were key details they hadn't shared. Details that complicated the case. It wasn't easy to tell them we couldn't move forward, but it was the right thing to do. Our credibility depends on making tough decisions like that. Additionally, we're careful to balance emotional appeals with factual evidence. Many families come to us desperate for help, and while their passion is moving, we have to focus on the facts. This balance is what allows us to maintain integrity in our work. The research phase is the foundation of our investigative process. This is where we gather all the information we can about the case, starting with court documents, trial transcripts, and evidence logs. Why is this phase so critical? Because wrongful conviction cases are often built on layers of deception, bias, and error. If we don't dig deep, we risk missing the key details that could make or break the case. This phase is also deeply personal for me. When I think about my fiancé's case, I can't help but wonder, what if someone had done the work for him? What if someone had taken the time to go through every piece of evidence, like I now have, interview every witness, and uncover the truth? That's why I pour so much into this phase, and why I demand the same level of commitment from my team. Here's how we approach it. We start by obtaining court records, police reports, and trial transcripts to understand the details of the case. We cross-reference these documents with publicly available information to identify inconsistencies or gaps. We reach out to family members, witnesses, and even former attorneys to gather first-hand accounts of the case. These interviews often reveal new leads or overlook details that can make a significant difference. We verify the validity of the evidence presented during the trial. This includes reviewing forensic reports, analyzing timelines, and identifying any discrepancies in witness testimonies. We create a detailed timeline of events to identify inconsistencies or gaps in the prosecution's narrative. This helps us understand what happened, when it happened, and who was actually involved. We compare findings across multiple sources to ensure accuracy and reliability. Every fact is double-checked before it's included in our final report. This phase can take weeks or even months, depending on the complexity of the case, but it's absolutely critical to ensure that we have a solid foundation before moving forward. One of the most important aspects of our investigations is uncovering misconduct. This could be anything from suppressed evidence to conflict of interest among attorneys and prosecutors. Why is this step so important? Because misconduct isn't just a legal issue, it's a moral one. When prosecutors, judges, or law enforcement officers manipulate the system, they're not just failing the defendant, they're failing all of us. And for me, this step is personal. My fiancé's wrongful conviction was riddled with misconduct, evidence that was buried or ignored, witnesses who weren't properly vetted, and a system that seemed determined to convict him no matter what. That's why I'm relentless when it comes to uncovering the truth. For example, in Tony Viola's case, it was uncovered that prosecutors withheld FBI 302 reports and internal lender documents that directly contradicted their case. This kind of misconduct is unfortunately all too common, and it's our job to bring it to light. We also investigate systemic issues like racial bias in sentencing or flaws in forensic science. These patterns reveal the deeper problems within the justice system, and they help us advocate for meaningful reform. As we come to the end of this episode, I want to take a moment to reflect on why we do what we do here at Wickedly Judged. Every story we share, every case we investigate, and every injustice we uncover is part of a much larger fight. A fight to fix a broken system that has failed so many. For me, this fight is deeply personal. It's not just about the statistics or the headlines. It's about the people behind them. It's about the families who've been torn apart, the lives that have been derailed, and the voices that have been silenced. It's about my fiancé, who's still sitting in prison for a crime he didn't commit. His story is what drives me on a daily basis to keep going, even when the work feels overwhelming. But this fight isn't something I can do alone. Change doesn't happen in isolation. It happens when people come together, when communities rally around a cause, and when individuals like you, my listeners, decide to take action. Every time you listen to an episode, share a story, or even just have a conversation about wrongful convictions, you're helping to create awareness. And awareness is the first step towards change. I know it's so easy to feel powerless in the face of such a massive systemic issue. But let me remind you, every movement for justice starts with small individual actions. It starts with people who refuse to look the other way, who refuse to accept the status quo, and who are willing to speak up for what's right. Here at Wickedly Judged, we believe in the power of advocacy, awareness, and collective action. We believe that together we can shine a light on the darkest corners of the justice system and demand accountability. We believe that every voice matters, including yours. So as you go about your day, I encourage you to think about how you can be a part of this movement. Whether it's sharing this episode, supporting our work, or simply educating yourself about the issues. Every action counts. Here at Wickedly Judged, our mission is to not only expose wrongful convictions, but also to inspire change. If you've been moved by what you've heard here today, here's how you can help. Submit a case. If you know someone who has been wrongfully convicted, go to wickedlyjudged.com and submit a case, or email us at wickedlyjudged@gmail.com. You can even call us 513-393-7452. Support our work. Visit wickedlyjudged.com to shop our exclusive merchandise. Every purchase directly supports our investigations and our advocacy efforts. Share the podcast. Use Hashtag Wickedly Judged on social media to share this episode and help us reach more people who can join this fight for justice. Stay connected with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter for updates, behind-the-scene content, and ways to get involved. And simply join the movement. Advocacy starts with awareness. Share our mission with your community. Attend local justice reform events, or volunteer with organizations fighting for systemic change. Together, we can fight for a justice system that truly serves justice. Thank you for being a part of this movement. And as always, stay informed, stay vigilant, and stay hopeful, because nobody deserves to be wickedly judged.